So I began in entrepreneurship about 15 years ago. Prior to that, I was in corporate America and the company went out of business and we found ourselves, my new husband and I at the time, like, are we going to have kids or what's this going to look like? And I started in entrepreneurship with network marketing. And so back then it was not the rage yet. Nobody was really doing it. So I got in at the right timing and I kind of got my entrepreneurial feet in the door, so to speak. Now, at this point in time, I was a Christian, but I definitely was not walking in relationship with the Lord. And so I found a lot of false fulfillment in the winning, I get to walk on the stages and I get to hit the ranks and all of that. So I got really lost in that through the journey. And to keep a long story pretty short, it all kind of came crashing down in 2016 or it was 2015, I guess, when I had hit the top 1% of the company. I had the big $50,000 bonus check and I'm walking the stage and I'm like, oh, okay, life is perfect. And if you were watching me on social media, you'd be like, wow, she's got it all. But what you can't see on the outside is that I was a mess. I was completely idolizing success. I was working all hours of the day, of the night, of the weekends, had, that ear thing attached to my face 24/7 at the expense of ignoring my kids to take a call, right? And the lies that I was telling myself were, this is all going to be worth it one day. Like, I really believed if I just kept growing and kept growing. But the problem was it was never enough. Yeah. And so on the stage that day, I thought it was all going to make sense. Walking this big stage in front of 20,000 people, all the success as far as you can see. And I walk off the stage, Tamra, and I felt exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And that was the moment. It was like, okay. But being stubborn as I am, I kept going. I was like, well, okay, we'll just hit the top 0.1%. That's got to feel different, right? And God, in his faithfulness, he saved me at 9 and he had been waiting for me patiently all this time, like the loving nudges. And I kept pushing forward in my own strength, as a lot of the go-getter A-type people do, right? We kind of have to find that we can't control everything and we can't just completely dictate what our future is going to look like. And so I basically had a huge undoing in the next 12 months. The business basically crumbled underneath me. Wow. All the new companies were out. So people wanted to have the success I had had. So they were all poof gone. My downline of a couple thousand people just gone. The money was gone. I was here pregnant with second baby, have a 2.5-year-old. So like that whole thing is going on. And this pivotal day happened where I went and sat down to do the bills. And I realized we can't pay the bills because all the money was gone, but it had happened so fast. Like the lifestyle was still kind of happening.
Sure.
And I walk out to my husband that day and I say, we're not going to be able to pay the bills. And he said, we'll borrow it from Miles, who's my older son's savings account. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And it was like the worst thing he could have said. Like I'd have rather him just get angry and yell because it was like so much grace. Sure. And that was just God's hand. And so I come back to my office and I'm crying and I'm like, this is like, what was this all for? Right. To borrow money from my son's savings account. And I've been working endlessly for the past, 5 years for this. And now it's all gone. And so I sat down and that was the moment where it was like, you are reborn in the deepest trials when you feel like your identity is completely wrecked. That was that moment. Mm-hmm. And I got out a notebook, a sheet of paper and a pen. And I started writing down like, God, I don't know where to go from here. And I started journaling with God. And it was this beautiful, like new relationship building gifting that he just gave me in that moment of brokenness. And I start writing down like, you are the daughter of a king. You are going to be successful in your business. You're present mom, you're present wife, you're sober, like all these things in this journal that I'm like, must be nice to be her. Because I didn't know how to get there.
Right.
And so I circled the first thing and it was get healthy. That was the first thing I had kind of circled. So I went to a gym I couldn't afford, started working for an hour and then figuring out this God thing for an hour, praying, opening a Bible, fumbling my way through it. And so what happened from there, and then you tell me where you want to go, is basically over the next like 5-6 years, I was just hungry for God's blessing over my life. And so he was repairing each area of my life kind of beautifully in his own timing. And I was consistently learning the act of surrender and trust in my marriage and my motherhood, and then ultimately my business. And so in 2018, I had been kind of fumbling around with business because I was scared. Like, I don't want to fall back into what I was, you
Sure.
know? I was kind of scared of that. And so I would do lives on Facebook, have a baby on a hip. And I'm kind of this weird blend of like total hot mom authenticity mixed with like, whoa, she knows what she's talking about when it comes to business strategy. And like
Yeah,
this
so
blend
good.
of those two things.
Yeah.
And so these women would be like, do you coach? I'd like, because I felt approachable to them.
Right.
But yet like legit enough to have a coaching call with.
Completely.
And I was like, Lord, do we coach? And he's like, yes. And so I start coaching these women, Tamra, and within a year, like there's tons of buzz around. People are like knocking on the inbox door. And I had a dream, start a podcast 2018. And from there, everything just really exploded because I learned how to build a business using podcasting instead of social, which I had been doing, and it was draining and I was exhausted, and how to be present with my kids because of this new method that God had shown me to grow a business. So that evolution led to today, where, as you mentioned, I teach mostly women, but we of course have our guys in all the programs, how to get clear on their calling so they can build a business, use podcasting to grow the audience, and then monetize the podcast with coaching or courses. And now I have a top 20 podcast in the entrepreneurship space. It's absolutely crazy, the evolution of like how God uses all the failures and the trials and the stepping stones that you walk through.